Google really wants you to convert from iPhone, but only if you're in the US. Fairright has given me a new lease of life on recording podcasts. Still makes a debut, and much more on today's episode. Well, the Google Pixel Fold is available for pre-ordering, and it looks like that Google really wants its US customers to switch from Apple over to the Pixel Fold. Now, an article from 9 to 5 Mac says that Google's actually be paying over the odds. They're offering up to $900 traded in towards the Pixel Fold, and I believe that's on the 14 Pro Max. So I decided to have a look at what you get here in the UK. Now, unfortunately, it does seem that the US always gets better trade-in deals, and that goes with Samsung, Google, and Apple as well. So I went over to the Google store and I looked at a black Google Pixel Fold, and that was at £1,749. And I said I was looking to trade in an iPhone 14 Pro Max with 128 gigabytes, and they said that they give us £660. So to be honest, like I say, that really does suck compared to what the deals you get in the US. Every year when the Samsung release comes out with the Fold or the Ultra devices, you always see the US customers getting some amazing deals. But unfortunately here in the UK, it looks like we're going to get stiffed for another product again, unfortunately. I do understand that it is different between the telcos, what they offer and things like that in the US to here in the UK. But it just seems that if they want to get good market share, then they need to be focusing not just in the US, they need to be focusing in other countries as well. Now, I said in my previous episodes that I was going to be watching Google I/O, and just like every year, I start watching it and then I basically stop watching it because there's so much talk, obviously, towards the developers, and it basically zones out. So after about an hour of talk about AI, I decided to call it quits on there, and I decided to go for the shorter version that always comes out a few hours later. And to be honest, I'm glad I did. Google released a couple of new devices, all of which we knew pretty much all of it due to leaks going around and things like that. So you had the Pixel Fold, the Pixel 7a, and the Pixel Tablet. And I gotta be fair, all three look interesting. Just did a bit in the 7a more as a gift to one of my children towards Christmas time, so I'll be looking at to see if they get any deals. The Fold is something I'm interested in. It's not something I plan on purchasing at the moment just because of the cost, and I just don't think the technology is there at the moment. But the fact that they've got what they call some of the best cameras on foldables at the moment is a good claim. And I think that's good for everybody because that's now going to push people like Samsung and Oppo and everything like that to get better cameras on their phone devices. Now, I know people say about the bezels on the Pixel Fold are a lot bigger, especially compared when you're to the first Samsung Fold. I believe they're bigger. But the camera for the selfie is in that bezel and is a lot better quality. So it's going to be a lot of what you want. Personally, bezels don't really bother me too much, but they do look a little bit thicker there. But again, like I say, the camera's going to be a better quality if you want to do videos of selfies on there. So it is really a personal choice. But I was looking at the Pixel tablet, and you get a free speaker dock if you pick it up, obviously, now. And that's at £129 separately. And then when you pop it on, it charges and it acts like basically the Nest Hub Max. Now, I've had a Nest Hub Max. I liked it, but the sound quality wasn't fantastic. I had it as a security camera mainly, but you were able to make video calls via Duo and things like that. I recently sold it just because I didn't want a camera in my house any longer. I've actually got cameras outside now for security, so I didn't like having one inside too much anyway. But it's definitely an interesting way of doing it, and I think that if Apple actually follow suit, they could do some really well if they got, even if it was just a separate stand now for the iPads and you would just clip them on. I think they would do fantastic. The connection device looks very similar to the ones on the iPad Pros that you get with your smart keyboard cases and things like that. So it is definitely something worth checking out if you wanted a tablet around the house that's basically most of the time as a speaker dock. But regarding whether or not it's any good as a tablet, I've yet to see. The only review I've seen is from MKBHD, and he said it's okay as a mid-tier tablet, and that's about it. But look at the prices. Obviously, it is mid-tier prices as well. So again, Google is saying they're going to be pushing now for the tablets, but it doesn't look like they're putting an awful lot of effort in at the moment, unfortunately. So sticking with Google I/O at the moment, now that that is over, we're obviously going to start to see people pushing ready for Apple's WWDC in June. And that's always an exciting time. Again, it does get a bit boring sometimes because a lot of it is aimed at developers, but it's still interesting to see what they've got coming. Now, one of the things I really hope that we are going to see is watchOS become more standalone. Now, I don't know if that's just going to be just software or we're going to have to wait, obviously, for the next hardware. People saying that they are seeing leaks for the watchOS software is going to be a big, massive change. I welcome that. I used to have the Apple Watch Series 2, 3, and 4, and I liked them. I really did, and I ended up getting rid of my 4 when I moved over to the Pixel 5. I've tried some Android smartwatches out there and none of them come close to the Apple Watch. Now I really do hope that Apple is going to make a watch that can be used on any device and any platform. That would actually be fantastic. I understand why they're keeping it tied to the iPhone at the moment, but I personally think that if they open it up across the board, then they're going to get a massive customer intake, just like back with iTunes days originally. It was just for Macs, and then when they opened up for Windows as well, they just were able to flood the market and they basically just took over with the iPod, and I think it would be the same with the Apple Watch. I do miss having my Apple Watch. The only thing I don't miss is obviously charging a watch every night. In terms of fitness tracking and just everyday smarts, it is second to none out there. So let's just hope that if not at WWDC, then in September time when they release new versions, that we are going to see a more standalone product that can be used across the board. Apple has finally confirmed that it's going to be bringing its online store to Vietnam shoppers, and that will be from Thursday, May 18th. It is hard to think of there are countries out there that just don't have access to these online stores, but unfortunately it is an ongoing battle, and obviously regulations in each country is different, but it is good to see that Apple are starting to make a bit of a headway across the countries. A new documentary actually airs on Apple TV Plus today, and it's actually a story regarding Michael J. Fox and his upbeat attitude to Parkinson's disease since he's been diagnosed at just 29 years old. Now, I'm a massive fan of Michael J. Fox. I grew up in the era of Back to the Future, Spin City, and a lot of other things. I've read one of his books where he actually talks about battling the disease, and this guy's attitude is really amazing. So I'm certainly going to be looking at watching this documentary, and like I say, that is available on Apple TV Plus today. Fairphone has announced the FairBuds XL headphones, and these are more of a modular design, so allows you to replace components a lot more easy. They did it with a Fairphone device. Now, they are saying that the prices are going to be expected to be around $270, which, I'm going to be fair, is not too bad for headphones, especially if they're ones that you can repair or replace parts easily. And what they are saying is they'll have active noise cancellation up to 30 hours per charge and a few extra features. Now, that is actually coming in from Android Authority, so I will put a link in the description if you want to have a good read of that one, but they are looking at around about £219 in the UK pricing as well. So on Wednesday, I decided to record the podcast on my iPad Pro. It's one I bought back in 2020, and the reason I decided to do that was for one app called Ferrite. Now, it was recommended to me during lockdown previously for editing and recording on, and at the time I didn't have fantastic mics, as you can tell back at the previous qualities of the recordings. So I gave it a go and it was okay, and I just wasn't particularly happy, not just with the software itself. I didn't like the way the iPad handled recording and things like that. I bought dongles and I was always having some problems, so I decided just to give up completely, and I bit the bullet. I ordered a Rode NT microphone, which I still use to this day, and I was recording on an old MacBook Air, and then I ordered an M1 Mac Mini, and I've never looked back. It's a fantastic device. I've even gone and got the M2, so I actually have the two devices now running for different tasks, and majority of my podcasts I record on there, but I decided to go back and give this app a try, mainly because not only was it recommended to me, but there was also a really interesting interview from the creator of Ferrite. After listening to that, then they were saying how they changed it over the years and it was on to version 3. I thought, oh, actually, it sounds really good. Now you get up to an hour recording for free, and then you get premium features and things like that as a one-off payment for £30. If the next version comes, the plans are you can upgrade for a cheaper price if you've already paid. But if you didn't want to upgrade again, you could continue to use the features you've already paid for on the new versions. And I thought that was actually pretty good. So I decided to go and give it a go. And I got to be fair, it's absolutely amazing. It's not just how easy it is just to record, just plug in your mic and go, but also the editing process, especially the Apple Pencil, is just second to none. And having a good mic on the iPad Pro and some good software, it's unbelievable. So I've decided I'm probably going to record a bit more on the iPad than I had been over the last couple of years. I'm still going to use my Mac, especially when I am a guest on other podcasts. But for days where I want to get an episode out, but I just don't feel like sitting down with the Mac and things like that, powering it all up and everything, I just want to do it from the luxury of my sofa, then it looks like this is going to be my setup for the meantime. And I'm kind of glad, to be honest, because since I got the Mac, my iPad Pro had been really neglected by myself. My children were using it for drawing and things like that. But by myself, I hadn't used it for numerous months, especially since I went and I got the Galaxy S22 Ultra. It was a slightly bigger screen, and then if I wanted something bigger, I just jump on the Mac. But sitting on the sofa with an iPad, browsing makes a difference. So obviously I can keep up to date with the tech that's going on and news and things like that. But then recording now is actually a game changer again. So hopefully this will encourage me to get some more episodes out as well. But if you haven't checked that out, then I'll leave a link not just to the app but also to the interview as well. It's really interesting. Well, that's it for today, guys. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you on the next one.